Welcome to the Trading Bar. I'm Noakip Kimboy, and today we are talking matters UBA, United Bank for Africa, Kenya to be specific. I'm joined by Mary Mulili, who is the Executive Director Banking at UBA, to help us put into perspective some of the pertinent questions that we need to inquire in the banking sector. Thank you very much for joining us, Mary.
Thank you very much, Noah.
Definitely.
I'm glad to be here with you.
Wow, that's amazing. So the other day, actually 8th of this month, we were celebrating International Women's Day. And we saw women are spread across all sectors. For the banking sector, looking at it in terms of numbers, what is the place of women in that sector?
Okay. Thank you, Noah. Actually, it was yesterday, the women's celebration. And I think if you look at the banking sector or the financial sector, if you look at the women representation, and especially in the top, what I would call the C-suite, we probably have about 1% representation. If you go to this next level, which is the executive management or the senior management of the bank, that's where we see slightly more numbers, averaging between 40 to 50%. Yet at the larger, lower levels, we have more numbers at about 60%. If I can come to UBA and looking at UBA globally, we have and encourage a lot of diversity. And if you look at the composition of the women in the bank, we are over 50%. In Kenya, we are about 51%. And when you look at the ESCO, which is the executive committee, we are about 50% again. In terms of the board representation, which is also very key in terms of the governance, for UBA Kenya, we are about 33%. In other markets and other financial segments, so to speak, in Africa, according to some of the reports that we've seen, in Africa, the representation is about 23% in the board for women and 20% in the executive committees. Okay. However, I must give it also to some of the financial institutions, and most of them actually in Kenya, because we've seen a lot of women take up even some of the key roles, some of the roles that men were doing previously. Roles like heading the credit units, which were more predominantly driven by men. Roles like risk, we've seen a lot of women step into that, and roles also in finance, which is actually a movement in the positive move.
Definitely. So you said as you go higher, generally speaking, the number keep reducing. What is the understanding behind that? What does that happen? And is there any move to reverse that trend?
Okay. That's a good question. And even as you're asking it, I was just thinking about myself. And when I began my career about 20 years ago, and when we joined in that category as graduate trainees, we were more women than men. But when I look back now and I look at where most of those are, I'm probably the only one at this position now. And there's been a lot of challenges in the sector. One is because of the long working hours and a lot of demands, especially if you're in sales and also in operations. It calls for you to put in extra time. And as a woman, without even asking, you are expected to do more than what men are expected to do. However, I've seen a lot of organization and banking, and especially ourselves also, looking at how do we reverse this trend? How do we promote women internally? What skills do we need to build in these women and create an environment that can create these skills for women to thrive in this segment? So I know, yes, there's conscious effort because again, those numbers, only 3 CEOs in the banking sectors are very low. For me, I think in UBA Kenya, I'm probably the only executive director that the bank has had locally. And the group, if you talk about now UBA, it's something that we are very passionate about. And if I look at the promotions that have been done this year alone, out of the regional CEOs that we have, 3 of them, and the regional CEOs normally look at cluster of countries, about 9 to 10 countries. And out of the 3 that were appointed this year, 2 of them are women. If you look at some of the other regional roles, actually, which were announced in the last 1 month, we have about 60% representation of women. And we've taken very conscious efforts to train, and through the UBA Academy, which is run out of Lagos, a lot of skills to build and to ensure that we have the next level of leaders, even from the women.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, that is important to note, because it's quite worrying, when you see that trend and nothing is being done to reverse. I'm glad that there is intentional effort to do that. But let's talk now matters banking. We understand, actually, for the past 1 year, to be exact, since COVID was officially announced, we've seen quite a number of changes in the banking sector. In terms of COVID and its impact, for UBA, what has been the major, lessons so far?
Okay. I think what COVID did is that, of course, we knew there was a disruption coming. It's just the timing that we were not sure of. So I think when COVID happened, it just accelerated of what the expectations was ongoing. And in the banking sector, if I might speak to that, we saw some of the traditional sectors that were thriving then, and where every banker was rushing into, come down tumbling. And we saw emergence of new sectors. We saw manufacturing doing very well, and we're seeing manufacturing probably of the medical attributed items. We saw the digital space really grow. And we saw a lot of other things like new ways of working. You wouldn't imagine that we could actually run a bank with people even working from home. But believe it, we did it. We just had to come up with quick solutions, because we had to serve our customers and continue serving them even during the lockdown. So if you look at the digital penetration, which was this adoption by our customers, and especially within the corporate and also to some extent the retail space, which was much slower, we saw that accelerate during this period. The utilization of internet banking, mobile banking, because a lot of the transactions were driven there. And if you look at the numbers that were given by Central Bank sometime last year, we saw card transactions dip while mobile transactions went up. So there again, as a bank, we had now to accelerate in terms of what we were building and what we were giving our customers. And so to speak specifically for Kenya, we actually made one of the innovation hubs for the group, and look at ways in which we could integrate with various companies in the market and other entities to be able to provide various services to our customers as well. So I think it's exciting times, and also it gave us an opportunity to look at areas where we were fat, where we were incurring costs, where we could actually cut, or realigning of resources into better ways, or to do business differently. So I think it's a welcome change for us, and I think as UBA Kenya, we are very excited because digital is the now and the future.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Digital is the now and the future.
Yes.
We've seen in regards to transactions, we saw to help cushion the people from the economic impact of COVID-19, the president waived transaction fees. For example, money transfer below 1,000 bob, you do it for free. Then some people used to transact, 1,000 bobs, even 30,000. Yeah? You're just sending 1,000 because it's free. And also for the bank, you can directly pay, from your bank account for free. We saw now December that expired for mobile transactions. For the banking sector, that is still continuing, and we've seen a dip in regards to money transacted in the mobile platform after that. That freedom came to an end and was capped. So for the banking sector, do you foresee again reintroducing some of these charges, and how will that impact business, especially transaction-wise?
I think from where I sit, it's not a matter of reintroducing charges, but it's more at looking at what value are we giving our customers. I think a customer can pay a price if they are getting the value, but right now we're not having even the discussion about what charges we are incurring. It's how are we creating more value to ensure that our customers not only consume that one product that they were using, how do we again add more products for these customers, looking at their ecosystem. If you're an individual, I want to understand your lifestyle, and how can I support your banking services in line with your lifestyle.
Definitely.
Yes.
So it's about offering value.
Yes.
If you offer value, people will pay for
Yes,
it.
yes.
Oh, that's quite interesting. Now, UBA, I mean, you are in over 20 countries, Pan-African bank.
Actually, global bank.
A global bank.
Yes.
Yeah, it's grown. It's good to put that into perspective so that
Yes.
we're not limited in
Yes.
Africa. But in regards to what is happening in Africa, we've seen the Africa Continental Free Trade Area coming into effect the 1st of January, doing away with these non-tariff barriers and boosting intra-Africa trade. What is the place of banking in ensuring that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is successful?
Okay. I think UBA, and just also to just say the full name, the United Bank for Africa. I think we had the foresight even before this agreement came to place, because our vision is to enable trade within Africa. And one of our key goals is to ensure that we support those entities from Africa, trading in Africa, to thrive. If you look from where we sit as a bank and the way we've been organized, we've actually been organized even at the group level. And this pillar is key for us and for the delivery of the strategy. And it's so key that we are even engaged even in the discussions, even as they are ongoing. And internally, even at the subsidiary levels, we've also set up teams that will look purely at the opportunities that this partnership brings on board. So we're already mapping out, or rather we've already mapped out which entities are looking to trade in Africa, which sectors. We know manufacturing is going to be very key. And through partnerships with entities like CAM, KEPSA, we want to be at the forefront in supporting these entities. If you look at the payment platforms as well, we have group or Africa-driven payment platforms where we can have entities bank across all our platform. And it's easy for us because we have one core banking system in all the subsidiaries. So it's easy to integrate and support entities that are going to do this business. In terms of the trade, again, we have robust trade sales and transactional banking desks that are also looking at those opportunities and the pain points that are possibly going to be brought along by the entities that are looking to trade in that. Also to mention on that, we are the only African bank that is licensed to do business in the US. And I know you're aware that we are in the negotiations that are going on now, the US-Kenya free trade agreement. We've also taken a seat on that table because you also need to support those entities that are in the US looking to come into Africa. And you could even use Kenya as a stepping point to the rest of the continent. So we are ready. If I might answer your question directly, we are very ready and ready to take these opportunities and develop companies that are looking to trade in Africa in this new agreement.
Partnerships remain very key in operating in Africa. For UBA, you're partnering with Tony Almelu Foundation.
Yes.
And it's focused on women, but business generally. Explain to us what exactly is happening there.
Okay. The Tony Almelu Foundation has been running now for about 10 years. And it focuses on a cross range of startups within Africa. And we've received applications from 54 countries across the continent. And looking at the numbers of the people who've been awarded, about 35.6% of those are women. And currently, actually, as we speak, we are running a recruitment drive that will close on the 31st of March. And I'll encourage a lot of entrepreneurs to participate. I think this is one of the engagements that is very core to us and building the entrepreneurship in Africa. I think, like I alluded earlier, about 80% of the businesses are SMEs. And if you look at where the SMEs are drawn from, some of them are drawn even from some of the sectors that some of the institutions will consider as risky sectors, agriculture, the emerging gig economy, the ICT. And what we do is we give the grant in 2 bits. One in capacity building, and also we give $5,000 as seed capital. And now from the banks now, in all the subsidiaries, we support these entrepreneurs in terms of other funding. So I'll encourage as many Kenyans to participate. I think so far we've had about 477 Kenyans who've been eligible and have participated. And I know if they could share the experiences, it's been a worthwhile experience that people should participate in.
Maybe somebody is thinking hard, if I participate, for me to raise my chances of getting this support, what should I be on the lookout for it?
Okay. We look for unique ideas, of course. We are looking at 54 countries. We look at areas that will have the much impact in the economies or the societies that we operate in. So those will be some of the pointers on that. And we're not saying that the business should be actually been running. We're even looking at idea stage. Yeah, how confident are you about that idea? How will it scale up in terms of growing in the space that you're looking at?
Okay.
Yes.
So if somebody has unique idea, you know, starting from ideation stage,
yes,
all the way to if you're already running a business, you're eligible to, you know, participate.
Yes, you're eligible to.
Yeah,
you're eligible to participate.
That's nice.
Yes.
People should take advantage of that.
They should. And I think from the numbers that we saw in 2019, of course in 2020 we didn't do because of COVID, but in 2019 we actually saw numbers grow. And something that is worth noting, we saw about 42% of women applicants, which is quite encouraging. So we encourage all people to participate in this opportunity.
You've mentioned the expansion bit.
Yes.
And when we talk about, you know, right now, a lot of people actually, they're closing down their brick and mortar, you know, stations. They're saying everyone is going digital. So in terms of measuring expansion reach, vis-a-vis also keeping those, the costs capped and not necessarily pushing, you know, people going online at the same time. How do you balance that, especially with the expansion bit of it?
Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, UBA Kenya has only been represented in Nairobi. And clearly, while we still move into the digital space, there are some people who still want to see a presence in some markets. It makes a lot of difference. And for us, how we're expanding, we're just not going to every corner of the market. It's very deliberate, and we've also done a feasibility of what kind of customers are in these markets as well. As a group, all the subsidiaries should have at least a minimum of 10 branches in every country. And in Kenya, we only have 3 branches. So for us, we still have scope. And if you look at some of the major counties that are actually cities now, we need at least to have representation there. And also just to close that close engagement with some of those customers, because they speak to some of the key sectors that we are focusing as a group. If you look at Mombasa, and if you look at the whole equation of the regional business, Mombasa is key. We must be represented at the Mombasa region. If you look at agriculture, Nakuru is very key. So for us as a bank, it's an area that we must be.
Definitely.
Yes.
So you still have 7 to go,
yes,
hopefully.
Yes.
All right. And as we finish up, we are all looking at the banking sector performance, especially over the past year. We are seeing banks make profits. I mean, your Q3 2020 results, you're making crazy profits, almost, 100+%, yeah, jump from the previous year. And we've had the pandemic. Maybe explain to us how exactly that happens. How are banks able to make profits amidst a pandemic?
Okay, good question. Good show. We always seen that bankers, it's one area where we never see the dry spell. But we saw a bit of effect because of COVID. And out of the loans that we had granted, I think for the sector, we restructured close to about 40% of the total portfolio. If you look at the total industry NPL, we're about 13% for the industry. And out of those restructured facilities, because we were going up to between 3 months to about 12 months in terms of restructures, some of them still we had to carry on, because the sectors that were really affected, like tourism was really affected, education was really affected, until just this year is when we saw some of the sectors like education come back to life. And out of that, we expect about 7% of some of those companies to completely not recover. Now looking at where the areas of opportunities came in for the banking sector, one was on the FX, and again in terms of the transactional income, where people had to do a lot of transactions during the period. Again, remember, we're also operating in an area where we are controlled by the CBR, and a lot of our loans also are pegged on that CBR rate. So it was largely on the transactional income and the FX income. That's why we saw a lot of growth. Yes.
So there is a dry spell, but it just happens in some elements of it, but it's balanced off by others. So you're able to balance.
And also to speak as well, we saw a lot of cut in costs because we had to have a lot of our workforce working away from the office. Also, that had an implication in terms of the costs on the other side for most of the organizations as well. Definitely. Yes.
Briefly, the last question: what is the future of banking?
The future is here already, if you ask me. If we don't reinvent as a bank, you won't survive in future. If I look at where banking was when I started my banking career, it's totally different. It's really evolved. And you have to keep in touch with the market and anticipate your customer needs. Our customers are also changing, you know. We had cases where customers would go to a bank and queue for 4 hours. Right now we have a different kind of a customer who has no patience. You know, they only give you one chance. And if you don't get it right, they will leave you and leave you with a trail of damage. So it's really evolving. So we have to be first aware of the customer we are serving, the needs they're looking at, and how likely are those needs going to evolve. And digital is going to have a very big play to run. And I think that's why I'm very delighted as Kenya being made the innovation hub, one of the innovation hubs for UBA group, because that means that we can integrate or do a lot of innovations to serve our now customer and the future customer.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The future is here. Mary Mulili, Executive Director Banking at UBA Kenya. That is quite a heavy conversation, especially on the women bit. And I know you have questions. Please comment on our YouTube channel down there, and we'll be able to respond to them in that regard. But as it stands right now, that's it for the trading bell. Of course, we have to take a look at the markets before we close out, shall we?